Hi, it's Jan Beta and we're going to take a look at some data sets for the Commodore machines in varying states of decay. So I gathered up all the data sets I have that are all not working for different reasons and all need a good amount of TLC. These are the Commodore 1530 ones. I have 3 of those and they are meant to be used with the Commodore 264 line of machines. So the Commodore 16, the Commodore Plus 4, Commodore 116, they have this 7-pin mini DIN connector that fits those machines. They are basically the same as the 1530, technically, internally, except for the connector and the color. The 1530, which this is a clone of, it's not an original Commodore one, as witnessed by the missing Commodore logo here. These have these edge connector type connectors that are used in pretty much all the other Commodore 8-bit machines, starting with the PET and through the C64, the VIC-20, the Commodore 128. So this is basically the same device as this, but comes in the VIC-20 color scheme and has a different connector. And there are adapters to use these with the other Commodore machines, because, as you probably know, the 264 series was discontinued after a short while. And then they had a lot of stock of these, probably, and they bundled in these adapters that adapts the mini DIN to the edge connector type. And yeah, this adapter doesn't work. None of these work. This doesn't work. We're going to take a look at what we can do. Yeah, and in case you're wondering why I have so many broken data sets, these often come with a machine that you order from eBay. That's how I got, I think, half of them. The other half are probably donations. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly who donated this, except for the one that I labeled that was donated by Marcus. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone else who donated one of these. I kind of lost track of donations, and these often were just thrown in with something else. And I have to say, I love these. I don't use them very often. So I gave away my only working data set that I refurbished in a video years ago to a friend. And I didn't realize I don't have another working one. So yeah, we're going to have to go through all of these and try to make them work. And I think I want to start with the original Commodore ones, which are the ones meant for the 264 machines. I think most of them kind of work, but they definitely need new belts at least and things like that. And a thorough cleaning. They are all pretty mucky. Let me take a few seconds to thank the sponsor for this video, PCBWay, my favorite manufacturer of prototype PCBs of all kinds. They can also do CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding. They can populate your boards for you, and they offer a service that helps you design your boards in the first place. All of these services are of extremely high quality and the pricing is super reasonable. So I highly recommend checking out the link in the video description in case you're interested. Back to our data sets. So I got my Commodore 16 out and I'm starting to look at this one that says donated by Marcus. We're going to see what it does. It should be powered now by connecting it to the computer. There's only one connection on these. It's a 7-pin mini DIN, as I said, and that also provides the device with power. Let's see what it does. Okay, it is moving. Counter works. But the counter doesn't work in reverse. Play moves. Counter reset works. Eject works. This little orange thing came loose, which is just a sticker. So we can stick that back on without any problems, just sitting here in the center to make it easier to see the tape position, basically. Let's try to load something with this, I guess. Seems okay so far. So I have a copy of Bomb Jack, I don't know if this is a good conversion. The C64 conversion famously is not very good. This was originally an arcade game. So just entering load here. Press play on tape. Let's see if the sense which tells the machine that the tape is in play mode, if that works. Seems to work. And now it should load bomb track, and it's going to take a while. It does look relatively good in terms of tape moving. Now it's stopped. It says found bomb track. That's good. And it continues to play automatically after a while. So this is now controlled by the computer. Yeah, and it says found now and loading. This is relatively promising. I didn't expect that. Maybe we should try something smaller for the next tests to make loading times a little shorter. And it totally worked! It loaded up a bomb track here. Don't know what the keys are. But yeah, this one works. That's good. That just needs a good cleaning. Yeah, it needs a bit of TLC still. Reattaching this label and cleaning, and probably new belts would be a good idea, but so far the first one worked. So here's the next one. It's much dirtier than the other one. Eject, yeah, it takes a bit of force to eject it, but it seems to do the trick. It's a bit noisy. Rewind works. Fast forward works. Tape counter probably stuck because somebody spilled some fizzy drink in there at some point in its life. Yeah, the tape counters thing, yeah, this definitely needs some love. I'm not even going to attempt to load a game with this. Definitely needs a good cleaning, probably new belts as well. Let's try the other one. And the third one. By the way, these connectors have a little arrow on them, so you know which side is the top side. I've seen quite a few C16s, or in general C264 series computers, where this mini-DIN connector was a bit worn out because people tried to plug this in the wrong orientation. There is an arrow! Rewind works. Fast forward works. Tape counter, I think the tape counter is supposed to only work in the forward direction. On this one it's exactly the same. Yeah, seems to work fine. Let's see if it boots a game. Let's see if we can load this copy of Fire Ant, which is a really good port on the C16. This is also a Commodore branded tape. Unfortunately, I don't remember who donated this, but thank you very much. Came from the UK. Okay, this is a bit... needs a bit of force to get the tape in there. Should be a bit of a shorter game, judging by the length of tape in there. Entering load. Press play on tape. Yeah, it found Fire Ant. That's good, and it should start spinning up again in a second here. Yeah, there's the loading screen even. Nova load. It's happily loading away. Keyboard or joystick? Keyboard. Yeah, works. This one seems to work as well. Needs a bit of a cleaning, probably new belts. Okay, let's look at the one that needs some love. I'm going to open this up. These are all just 4 screws in the bottom to open them. Really easy to work on these in general. And as I said, and as you've seen, these are not very prone to failure regarding the general stuff. Some of them, yeah, this is what this part looks like. Yeah, somebody definitely spilled a drink in here. There are some telltale signs of something sugary being spilled in here. Probably into the tape counter, that's why that doesn't work at all. More signs of spillage down here and on the counter itself. And the belts feel super dry. Still trying to move the tape counter, which probably is glued with sugar. This whole thing should come out like so. Oh, and we have some broken pieces of plastic here. Yeah, this definitely needs a good wash in some soapy water. This belt also super loose. But this works. but it feels super dried out and super loose. So I'm going to see if I have a replacement for that. I think the spillage got on here, so we're going to clean this really nicely and see if that does anything to help this move. And if it continues to not move at all, maybe this is just going to be a lost cause. We're going to clean the circuit board a bit. Also going to take it out. Yeah, it's also corroded some of the circuit board. Because most fizzy drinks contain significant amount of acid, which is of course not what you want on your circuit boards. Going to have to take a look at the other side of the board as well. So this is just held in with 2 little screws, I think, so we should probably get this out as well. They're super loose as well. Yeah, this side of the board doesn't look too bad, actually. Yeah, it's all sticky. That's not good. And this stuff is also conductive. I'm just going to clean it off as well as I can. The mechanics themselves don't seem to be badly stuck, so maybe there's hope for this. So far, this did nothing at all, I think. Yeah, my fingers are sticky. So this was definitely Pepsi, Coca-Cola. Can't tell. Been a few years. I'm going to clean the tape counter a bit. Don't have high hopes for this. It tries to reset, but it can't. It somewhat wants to. Possibly this needs a bit more cleaning here. And I'm not going to take the tape counter apart. That's not in my skill set. Yeah, it's getting a bit better. Actually, might go in and try to lubricate this a bit. I'm going to clean these off a bit. Maybe some contact cleaner into our connector here. Let's see if we get anything. Oh yeah! Sounds really bad, but it came back to life. And the tape counter still doesn't do anything at all. Yeah, so far so good. So this needs a lot more cleaning, I guess. And some lubrication maybe. Just going to put some lubricant into the tape counter things here. Maybe it removes some of the Pepsi. This is some silicone spray. Maybe that somewhat makes this work again. But the tape counter is not the most vital thing. Yay, tape counter starts working. But not really. Just flooding the whole counter with silicone grease here. It's actually getting a bit better. Maybe a few more sprays with silicone grease are going to bring this back somehow. Yeah, it's still very flaky, but it even transports the next digit there. That's pretty nice. Let's see if it does the last digit. No, not really. It works a lot better than it was actually, but yeah. Let's see if I can have some belts here that fit this. So as for the belts, I bought I think 2 of these packs which have an assortment of drive belts in there. And I only ever opened up one of these packs. I think these are still available from AliExpress and eBay and probably Amazon and things like that. Let's see if we can find one that fits the tape counter mechanism. I'm just going to take off this belt here, which is just a matter of taking it off of the spindle here. This, the metal part, is our eject, so we can hold down eject and just get it off. It fell off there. There are some ways of making these a bit more elastic for a time, like putting it in hot water and things, but yeah, I'm not going to try that even, because it only works for a short period of time, if at all, in my experience. It's better to just order new belts, or like a belt kit that fits halfway. And it's a good idea to clean the surfaces that the belt travels on with some IPA, especially if you flooded this thing with silicone spray. So let's see if we have a replacement belt for this in here. This seems like quite a good match. Yeah, that actually should do the trick. And then we need one to replace the main drive belt, basically. So this smaller belt is just for the counter. This is the main drive belt, and we need to at least lift this part here up to get it in there. This has too much slack. You want a bit of slack. Actually, you want these to be looser than you imagine they would be. There's a little spring here that you don't want to remove. Yeah, this whole thing must be removed here, I think. Another screw here. And then you can take the whole thing out, or at least as much as you need. And there's a little cutout here that allows you to feed the belt through. So let's take this out. Yeah, this is it. This is the one we need. You can see here that this has a little dent in it. This is the old belt. And that's what happens if it's stuck in one position for a long time. So it gets a bit, yeah, it gets a little nick there. So this is going to lead to inconsistent playback. So this is not good. Going to put the other one in there. It's traveling in here. And we need to feed it through this thing here. And around our motor. That's how it's supposed to go. Yeah, now that fits pretty well. You want to turn it a bit to straighten it out. And then we should be good to go, I think. Let's see if we get movement. Yeah, doesn't sound great. But it somewhat works. And even our counter wants to somewhat work. Oh, now it resets even. Maybe this isn't a lost cause after all. And the sound was just because this was hitting the table here, basically. Sorry if this turns out to be a lengthy video. But these things sometimes need a lot of attention. Yeah, I'm just going to put some silicone grease into these little wheels here, I think, without hitting the wheel with the belt, because the belt is going to slip if you grease that. Yeah, that actually made things better. Going to put a bit of oil in the capstan here, I think. Oh, that made it better. This is standard silicone grease that I'm using here. That usually works pretty well for lubricating parts like this. Yeah, it's getting better. For cleaning the rubber parts, namely the pinch roller here, And this little wheel that contacts this spindle here during playback, this has a rubberized outer back here, rubber ring around that. That needs a bit of cleaning. And I have a specialized product for that that I've used with great success on some audio tape decks. And that is this stuff here. This is meant to clean printers. Kontakt Chemie 66 printer cleaner. And this works really well on pinch rollers. I've resurrected quite a few hi-fi tape decks with this that I thought would need a new pinch roller. But cleaning the pinch roller thoroughly with this stuff kind of rejuvenates it in a way. I don't know how exactly that is possible, but it is. So I'm going to use that on the rubber parts here in the hope that it does the same to a Datasette. So just going to put some of this stuff on a new fresh Q-tip and then put it on the pinch roller. And as you can see, there's quite a bit coming off there. This is actually meant for something else, but the materials used in printers seem to be the same, like in the transport printer part. This seems to take away the dirt and maybe a bit of the top layer of the pinch roller. And then makes it a lot more elastic again as well. Yeah, and you want to do this quite thoroughly for quite a while. As long as there's stuff coming off there, you want to continue. Just going to spray some on there directly to kind of soak it in this stuff. But yeah, this is how I resurrected a few tape decks that I thought would need surgery. And of course the capstan and the heads are going to be cleaned with some IPA. This is the capstan, the little metal rod here. And the tape transport works by pushing the pinch roller, which is the rubber wheel, to the capstan, which is the part that actually moves, and then tape gets dragged between those two. And both of these need a good grip, basically. And usually it's the pinch roller that dries out, gets cracks and things like that, and doesn't transport the tape reliably, and then you get kind of inconsistent tape transport, which of course you don't want. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's do the other wheel in the center here. Basically the same thing. Just putting some on here. I think we can put this in play and the wheel should move. Yeah. I'm going to clean the capstan a bit with some IPA. And the heads, this is the play and record head. That's pretty clean. At least something is clean. This is the erase head. That's a bit dirtier, but that's also not so important. Yeah, something still doesn't sound too great there. Oh, there we go. Just pushed down on the capstan. That made it a lot better. Okay. Now it's super silent. Nice. And look at the pinch roller wheel here, how clean that looks. That got a lot better. Counter seems to work now as well. Maybe this is completely fixed. We're going to see. Seems to be doing all right now. Didn't expect that. Yeah, some more general cleaning, but I think then we're done with this one. And that was, I think, the worst one of them all. So yeah, waiting for the case parts to dry, and then I'm going to try this out on an actual computer. On this actual computer that's set up here. So I just soaked these parts in the kitchen sink here in some warm dish soap, water, lukewarm. And I'm using a dedicated brush. Because I don't want any of the grime that's on here contacting my actual dishes. And I'm only going to show this once, but this is exactly what I'm doing to all the other ones as well, I think. Just brushing everything. I have a little toothbrush here. I'm just going to clean everything as well as I can. And then we're going to have to let this dry for quite a while. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Of course, we could take this whole door out and things, but I'm not going to bother because it's not that bad. Yeah, see you at reassembly time, I guess. Yeah, this one, as I said, I thought it would be a lost cause. But with a bit of work, it's actually not that bad anymore. Really happy about that. Let's see if we can start anything from this. Let's see if we can load something. Which in this case, again, is FireEnd because it's relatively quick to load. Press play on tape. It transports the tape. Oh, there we are. Found FireEnd. Yay! It might just work. And it continues loading. It's looking good so far. Keyboard. Yep. Loaded fine. Okay, this one is back in operation. Just need to wait for the case parts to dry and then we can put it back together, I guess. This is the next one, which did work. Oh yeah, and this is a bit tricky to get in there. Yeah, I guess all this needs is a good cleaning and some new belts. And I'm not going to talk much about that, because we already did that on the first one. It's just more of the same. The case parts, again, I'm just going to soak in some soapy water for a while working on the mechanism. This one got some proper shielding in there. That's pretty nice. And also has white roller here. But this should still come apart the same way, I think. Yes. This is our tape mech. And we're going to put the plastic parts in some soapy water. After taking the tape out, actually. I nearly forgot. This one is particularly dirty, but that's going to clean off with some isopropanol. It's mostly dust, it seems. No drink spillage in this one, quite thankfully. Oh, and there's quite a bit of dust in the thing here, so let's see if we can get that out with some compressed air, I guess. Blowing away from the mechanism. And then basically the same stuff as before, just using my skills, replacing the counter belt here. Maybe that even makes the counter work better. And the new belt goes on here and under here and under here. Then we just turn it a bit for the belt to settle. Yeah, looking good. On to the other belt. That was the easy one, of course. This one, we need to remove this screw and this screw. Oh, and it's a different screw on this one. I think this is, yeah, this is a slotted screw. So they used slightly different tape mechanisms in these over the years. Need a smaller screwdriver for that one. That's different screws in this one. So interesting to see. Yeah, that's a different screw. Interesting. Okay, this part comes loose. We can take the old belt out, which doesn't feel bad on this one. And then we can put the new belt on here. Over here. Through this little cutout on this part. And over our motor. Might have to take the circuit board out. Yeah. We can just remove this one screw from the circuit board, and then we have access to this. And we can put the wheel over that. And then we're just going to have to put our screws back. Oh, this only works in reverse when there's a tape inserted, I just realized. Because if you rewind, only this is moving. And this is only moving when it's pulled by the tape. Look at that. This is the one that's doing the rewind. In fast forward, this spindle is moving, so that's connected to the tape counter. That explains it. So if there's a tape in there, this is going to rewind with the tape, which obviously makes sense. Going to use my printer cleaner on the pinch roller again, and on this little wheel, and on the side of this, and clean some stuff with some IPA, especially the capstan and the heads. And then we should be good to go, I guess. Maybe some silicone grease in some of these, but this one is super silent and seems to be very clean. So basically no worries there. Going to clean the keys here, of course. Yeah, and there's a lot of dirt on this one. But this stuff really works wonders. Should have shown you before and after. Yeah, but you can see how much dirt there's coming off there. And you want to do this until there's no dirt coming off there anymore. This takes some time if you want to clean these really deeply, but it's really worth it because it makes tape transport so much better. Yeah, this also is going to grip better after this. Pretty smooth. This is even more silent than the other one. Some lubrication, can't resist. Even though you don't have to do this if the machine is running fine, but I'm still going to put a bit of silicone grease in here. And in some of these. Some grease on the moving parts here, this stuff. Doesn't hurt. Yeah, but that's basically it. I think this one is probably nicer than the other one. Let's try if we can load a game. Yay, found Fire Ant. This one is back in business as well. Nice. I love the fact that most of the tapes I have, the C64 ones and the 264 ones, still work fine after all those years. Try that with an SSD in 40 years. Not sure you're going to be happy. Okay, next. This was the nicest one when we started, I think. Still needs a bit of cleaning and new belts. Well, that's getting boring now, so I'm going to spare you the details, just going to do it. And this also needs the yellow thing, orange thing glued back. So this gets a good wash. Oh yeah, this belt. I can see that this is worn out quite a bit. So this is typical when you leave them in one position for a long time. This is, yeah, it's getting wider here. I think you can see that. It's got a bit deformed. But this one was working fine, I think. Trying to show you before and after with a pinch roller this time. So this is the before. You can probably see there's some dirt on there. You can see a stripe in the center there, I think. It should be relatively clearly visible. So yeah, I'm going to do the same thing and then I'm going to show you this again after treating it with my printer cleaner. I think this is the same as the second one that we've seen, but it has a normal Phillips screw there. And here's the pinch roller after cleaning. It looks basically as good as new. Could even do some more cleaning, but I think that's good enough. Yeah, this stuff really works wonders. And it works better too. It feels much more elastic after that. And the tape stuff, iron filings basically, probably, that get deposited on this also make this slip. So it's good to clean it. You know, the surface feels much more rubbery again. And it has much more grip than before. I do recommend this stuff, and there are other products that are similar for cleaning printers that allegedly work just as well. Got this trick from some tape forum somewhere. I'm not even sure where I exactly found it, but yeah, this stuff really good for this kind of rejuvenation and cleaning. And I'm using the same stuff on the rubber wheel. And then alcohol for cleaning the heads. Just a Q-tip soaked in alcohol is the common practice here. I learned to do this on 24-track reel-to-reel tape machines. Because I'm an audio engineer. And you're doing the same stuff, just isopropanol Q-tip. Before recording a session on a 24-track 2-inch tape. Going to clean this a bit. But then we're basically done with this. And we can test it. Yeah, same drill as before. I'm just going to try to start fire end on this one. Yay, found fire end. I think we have another winner here. Yay! Keyboard. Still haven't connected to joystick. It doesn't really matter. We know that this is able to load a game from the fire end tape. Nice! Super satisfied with how things are going so far. Okay, our first case is dry, I think. Going to have to reglue the stickers on all of these orange stickers inside there. They all came a bit loose. They are not the size of the little indentation on there. So maybe I'm just going to cut them a bit with some scissors and reattach them properly. We have to glue this little part here back, I think. And I'm going to use some of my usual Uhu Plast special for that. This is a model making glue, basically a plastic weld glue. And this should be the stuff that works for this. Let's see. Just going to put some on here. And then put the broken off part on there. And that should weld the plastic to itself, basically. Let's see. Just going to have to find the exact orientation of this. I think that's it. You can usually feel with these broken off pieces how they are supposed to sit. Yeah, I'm going to have to let that cure. And then we can put the first one back together. This was the one we did first. The one with the bad counter that had a drink spilled in it. And I'm afraid I didn't get the counter to work completely. But other than that, this should be back in operation. I'm going to glue this little yellow thing back there, I think. Should I take it off completely? Yeah. Just going to cut this a tiny bit smaller, I think, and then put some double stick tape on here. It was just stuck in there. It's just a sticker, basically, so nothing much to lose. Yeah, just a bit smaller. And then it should actually fit the little indentation. This is 3M double stick tape. Just eyeballing it because I'm cutting it again, I think, after the fact. Yeah, that probably looks better than it ever was. Yeah, nearly as good as new, I'd say. Does look rather nice again. Of course, not new, but it isn't, and it's much better than it was. And it works. I hope it still works in the casing. I'm going to give the cable a bit of a wipe too, with some window cleaner. That's what I like to use on these cables. And just a microfiber cloth. And then running the cable through it a couple of times, and that usually removes most of the dirt from the cable. Yeah, I think this one is back in business. I'm going to put the cases on the other ones as well. That's going to be the same as what I did now, just 4 screws, routing the cables and closing it up basically. I also cleaned the switches here again with the microfiber cloth and some window cleaner, and they turned out great actually. Finished this one, which was the worst one so far. And I'm doing the same for the other ones, which turned out similarly. They are super scratchy and things, but better than before. And they are all somewhat working better than before as well. Yeah, this one still needs a bit more pushing than the other ones, but I think that's probably in spec. In case you didn't know, these scars in the plastic, for lack of a better word, are from the cables being stored with these, because these have like softeners in them that seep out of them over the decades, and if they are like tangled up around the machines or something like that, they are going to dissolve the plastic. So you want to keep your cables separate from your machines if you're storing something. I think that's still true for cables that are attached to machines. They are still going to have softener chemicals in there. So quite some dirt coming off from the cables here. Yeah, but that's why I do things like this. Because I want my stuff to be nice and clean. And yeah, this is not a museum-grade restoration, of course. I just want these to work and look reasonably nice and not be sticky from the outside. So I think we achieved that with these 3 at least. Yeah, this one works as well. So 3 of the 5 are working and are cleaned already. And the rest of them are C64 models. Blue screen of life. So Commodore 64 is hooked up and we're ready to test the Commodore 64 datasets. As I said, both of these have these connectors, which go into the other Commodores. And both of these are no original Commodore models. But I think they are very similar to the Commodore models. These are kind of knockoff copies of those. Sometimes they have even cheaper tape mechanisms. Sometimes the plastic feels a bit brittle. This one feels about the same as the Commodore things. And interestingly, it has a Cobra Dymo label on here and 120 for the tape counter. There's an arrow pointing at the tape counter, so I'm not sure. Probably the position on some tape. Maybe Cobra? I think I have Cobra on tape, the game. Maybe we can try that in this machine, which would be kind of appropriate. It looks a bit rough, needs a good cleaning. And it was donated by Wolfgang from the YouTube channel Retro is the New Black. And yeah, it just says dataset unit for CBM64-128. They left out the VIC-20. Huh, the fools. Oh, and I can already see the belts through the window here. It's very wiggly. So this needs new belts. But it seems to work. Let's take a look inside. And as I said, these are going to be mostly the same as the Commodore ones. Probably with a cheaper circuit board of sorts. By the way, this was made in Taiwan, just like the other ones. So chances are they just are the exact same thing. And yeah, it has a bit of a different circuit board actually. And it doesn't want to come out. What's going on? Why? Oh, there we are. It just fell out now. Okay, very, very, very similar to the Commodore ones. But with a Matsushita motor. Okay, interesting. Pretty rusty and dirty, so probably got some moisture of some description in there. Maybe another sugary drink. Quite a bit of dust in the tape counter here we can blow out. Very dirty pinch roller and capstan, and the heads look a bit dirty too. These have mono play and record heads, by the way, so this is a mono tape format, of course. Yeah, the circuit board looks a bit smaller, but otherwise it seems to be a very similar mechanism, even the screws around the flywheel here. Yeah, and this belt is completely, it's very, very loose. The other one actually isn't that bad, but this one, yeah, that's gone. So yeah, the usual rules apply. The circuit board seems to be okay. There's some flux residue on there, some more than on the Commodore machines, but it's going to do the exact same as the Commodore one. We're just going to have to replace the belts and clean it up a bit. Hopefully, maybe it works after that. Yeah, probably no point in showing you the whole process again. Yeah, we're going to see. I'm just going to clean this up, just like the other ones. And then we're going to try to load something. This is actually pretty loose. That's not good. Yeah, that's better. The screw came loose on the circuit board. That's not good. We're going to replace this belt first. Let's see if it's the same belt as on the other ones. It looks to be. Yeah, same spring there. This is very, very old and feels super brittle, but it didn't snap. Oh, this came loose. I think we might have a problem here. A little piece of plastic just broke off from the tape counter thingy. Maybe we should blow out the dust before we do anything else here. Yeah, unfortunately, that piece of plastic that broke off from our tape counter, I think we're going to have to glue that back. How does this come out? Oh, okay. This just comes out. Basically, it stays in place quite well. But I think this little piece of plastic was supposed to be somewhere here. Don't know how exactly it attached, and we're not going to be able to glue that back in any way that holds reliably. So I think I'm just going to put a drop of glue on these parts here, maybe. Probably just going to use some super glue or something. Yeah, I'm going to be careful to not get anything into the mechanics, of course. I have some super glue kicker here. Yep, that fixed that problem in a second, literally. Yeah, this is going to require some more Q-tips and some more cleaning, as you've seen before. So I'm probably just going to do this without the camera even rolling. Oh, the pinch roller feels super dry on this one. So yeah, I'm going to soak that in this stuff pretty good. Yeah, I'm not sure if this one is going to turn out nicely. This is pretty dry. It's pretty non-elastic feeling. Going to give it our best shot of printer cleaner. It's already getting a bit more elastic. This stuff is so cool. So if you learned anything from this video, it's the printer cleaner for pinch rollers. My new superpower. Yeah, and in this one, actually the head is a bit dirty. Yeah, pretty smooth as well. Nice. Yeah, but it seems to grip really well now. That's nice. Okay, fast forward doesn't seem to work on this one. Interesting. But play works, that's the main thing, I guess. It works sometimes. Yeah, the rust isn't helping, but nothing I can really do about that, I guess. And I happen to have Cobra for the C64, which seems kind of fitting. Let's see. going to rewind this, and then we're going to try to load it. I don't actually know if this tape works, but we're going to see what it does. Press play on tape. That registers, that's good. Tape transport seems to be okay so far. Let's see if it finds it. Oh, Cobra! Might take a while until this loads, but yeah, I'm going to report back. Maybe it doesn't load at all. But it at least tries. That's a good sign. And we got a tape loader with a countdown kind of thing in hexadecimal. Hit load, copyright the hit squad. 5, 4, 3, no, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Yay, Cobra! Yeah, this one seems to work. And it loaded the game that was on a sticker on it. Yeah, fast forward doesn't work on this one, but that's, I think, one of the things that you don't need. The counter works in both directions. Yeah, but rewind works. And loading works. Nice! So it loaded Cobra. The Cobra dataset loaded Cobra. Ah. Okay, I had another look at this, and I think I figured out why the fast forward doesn't work. This little gear here is the one that is responsible for the fast forward and the rewind. So when I push rewind, it contacts this gear here that is winding the tape on this spool here. And when I hit fast forward, it is supposed to contact this gear that then moves this here. It's contacting it on the bottom. So, and when I go from rewind straight to fast forward, it even works. But this whole thing here is spring loaded, and the spring in this case, this is what it's connected to on the other side here. And the springiness comes from our belt, which has too much slack. It's kind of a different geometry than on the real Commodore datasets. So this one is responsible for the fast forward not working at all, or only sometimes. This is the spring loading, and that's not springy enough. But I found some other belts that might be a bit shorter. We're going to put one of those in. I just found these in my belts compartment. I think I ordered these for C2N datasets, but I didn't label this bag, so I didn't really have them on my radar. But yeah, these seem to be a better fit for something like this. Let's put one of those in and see if that fixes the issue. Yeah, that definitely has a lot more pull. Maybe that's going to work a bit better. Rewind. Fast forward. Yeah, that was what the issue was. And now the only belt that is not really fitting this is the counter belt, but as we've seen, it works. It's wobbling a bit, but yeah, not the most important part of this data set. And yeah, the other stuff seems to work fine. Okay, let's put it back in the case, which does look kind of exactly the same as before. This is mostly yellowing and little dings and scratches. Yeah, not the nicest looking device, but it supposedly works quite well again after a bit of work. Yeah, and I cleaned this meticulously, but didn't really help that much on this one. It kind of looks cool still. It is a well-used unit. It's not going to win any beauty contests, but it's back together and it works. Now this last specimen is a bit of a special one because it came with the original box and it was never really used because allegedly this didn't work at all when it was bought. I'm not sure what the issue is. We're going to figure it out, hopefully. Maybe. I don't know who donated this. It was a while back, but thank you very much for this. And I remember the person who donated it wrote me an email and said this was never used, really. It still has some of these cable softener burns here, unfortunately, on the lid. But otherwise it looks basically as good as new, pretty much unused. A bit of dust maybe, but yeah. We're going to see what it does, I guess. This is another clone of the original Commodore ones, Turbocorder. Okay, connected it up to the C64. Let's see what it does. Rewind works. Fast forward works. Play works. Tape counter works. Eject works. Record doesn't work without a cassette. One word about record. These have a combined record and playhead, and if the play function works, I am very sure that the record function is going to work as well, because they're just putting voltages into the head instead of getting them out. So this is a magnetic transmission system, so it should work both ways the same. I didn't test record because I'm not going to use record on these. Yeah, this seems to work fine mechanically. Let's see if it loads something. I'm trying to load Galancia, which is a recent game that I like a lot. Yeah, this works fine. Winding stuff. Load! It detects, so the sense is working. It communicates with the computer in some way. Let's see if it outputs anything. Yeah, it seems it doesn't even find anything on the tape here. So no found message or loading screen or whatever this game displays. I think it displays Galancia PAL in the upper left corner after a few seconds of trying to load it. Yeah, so this clearly doesn't really want to communicate with the Commodore 64 other than the sense thing that tells the computer that play was indeed pressed. Let's try and see if this gets some data over to the Commodore 64. And I'm using a little tool that is called Recorder Justage. That's an old tool that displays the stuff coming from the tape in order to adjust the little Azimuth screw on the data sets. So yeah, this is what it looks like. And you get the stuff that's coming in from the tape on the bottom there with vertical lines displayed on the bottom here, moving. So you can adjust this to meet some help lines. But this doesn't do much. It seems like it doesn't transmit data. So yeah, it might just be a broken connection somewhere or something like that. Or yeah, at least I think it has to be an electronics problem of some description. Maybe just a loose wire, or maybe a short on the board somewhere, or maybe something more serious. It clearly doesn't transport anything. We would see lines popping up here. While we're at it, this Azimuth alignment software here, I found that really useful. There are other ways, and you can mod your devices to have a little LED that shows the level of audio. You want to adjust the head tilt, that's the azimuth, to align with the recorded magnetic data on the tape, of course. Yeah, with most of these datasets that I've worked on today, I didn't have to do that because they read tapes fine. But your mileage may vary. Some tapes are not correctly adjusted while recording them, so you have to adjust the azimuth to the tape that was probably recorded on another machine that was not really well aligned. Yeah, that happens. Some games read better when you adjust this just right. On this one, we can't adjust anything because it doesn't transmit any data. Yeah, let's look inside and see if we can find the issue. And yeah, possibly if this is not so easy to troubleshoot, I'm going to have to outsource this to another video. Because this one is long enough already, I guess. I mean, I haven't edited it down, but I think there's at least 4 hours or thereabouts of footage of me doing the same things all over again. So probably that's enough to get a lengthy episode out of. Yeah, another Matsushita motor. This might just be the same mechanism like the one that we had before. So let's take this thing out here. We don't have to wash the case here. Yeah, this all looks pretty new. Oh, there's big blobs of solder everywhere. The circuit board looks a bit shoddily soldered. Yeah, let's see if our connections from our head get through. I'm just going to get the multimeter out. Maybe our head is broken. This doesn't look like the best solder connection. Yeah, it doesn't look great. It's very shoddily put together. And the solder joints don't look amazing on this one. Yeah, but we have our connections here. I'm just going to check the connections to the plug here, I guess. Maybe there's just a broken cable. Maybe this is shorted here. That's not good. I think I might have found the fault. Let me zoom you in. So this is the shoddy soldering job I was talking about. And there are some pieces here where the wires that have been soldered to the board were not properly cut. So it might be that we just have a short there between ground and something. These are, I think, supposed to be connected together, but I'm not super sure. There's a bit of wire. This might just have been a short here. Yeah, some of these look really bad. I'm not sure what they thought. And if they tested this at all when it left the factory. Yeah, not a great job. I removed some of the wires that were poking out a bit too much. Maybe some of those got shorted. I'm just going to try it again before I do any serious troubleshooting, I think. It would be a good idea to rework this whole board, I guess. Just going to give it a quick wipe with some IPA, I think. Yeah, maybe something got shorted out to ground. The data pin shorting out to ground would explain why there's no data coming through, of course. Oh yeah! Okay, that's what this program is supposed to look like. There was a short because they didn't cut the wires properly, I think. Yeah. It's coming through now. This was broken from factory. So this is what this is supposed to look like, and you want to align these lines so that they are solid. That's the best case. And you have these help lines for different formats. Turbo tape. This seems to be turbo tape. So you can align this in the center between two of those lines. And then you have the ideal alignment of the azimuth. And you're doing that with a little screw on the tape that there's a little hole in the casing and you can adjust the screw through that. From the outside while the tape is running, of course. So here's a little screw and you can see that there's the metal plate that the head sits on and you can angle it. That's the purpose of this. And you can adjust it to the tape, basically. Yeah, this seems to work fine now. It was a shorted contact. I think probably the data line to ground. I didn't really have to check anything else. So let's replace the belts and clean this up a bit from the inside. And then we're good to go, probably. And I'm going to clean the heads and apply my printer cleaner as well on this one. Yeah, I think this might be the best dataset of them all, even though it's not an original. But yeah, as you've seen, the mechanism is basically the same as on the other ones. Oh, and one more thing that you can adjust on these, in case that is necessary. These motors usually have a little slotted screw that you can turn to adjust the motor speed. So in some cases, if the motor is a bit clogged up, this is not going to run at the correct speed. But I've never seen that in these, so yeah, you can adjust it. And there's software and test tapes and things that you can use, and I have some plans for future videos where I try to show this. Probably for this video, this was enough of this. Let's see if it loads the game. I'm just going to put it back in its case, I think, because I'm pretty sure this is going to work now. That seems to have done the trick. It's loading Galancia now. Or at least the loader started. Not sure if it's going to finish loading that, but I'm going to report back. This actually has quite a nice tape loader with some music and flickery things, and yeah. And a title screen that just loaded in the background. This is one of the more fancy C64 tapes. And I think it's still available to buy from Protovision. A new Commodore 64 tape. I think we've finished loading. It says press space. And it's decrunching. Yeah, that's the game. Nice. Okay, this one had a short circuit that I didn't exactly track down to the exact thing that was shorted, but I'm pretty sure it was the data connection shorted by one of those wires that they didn't cut when they made this. Yeah, I don't have a joystick connected, but this works. This is a single file game, so this should start up normally. And that's it for today, I think. I managed to fix 5 out of 5 barely working or non-working data sets today, which, yeah, that is kind of an achievement, I guess. I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you took away some new tricks that you saw me using. If anything, this stuff really works wonders. I'm going to put a link to this exact thing in the video description. There are other products for cleaning printers that probably work the same. I think this is not the one they advertised in the tape forums. I just bought this because it was the easiest for me to get. And the other thing is that you probably can get away by just ordering one of these very inexpensive AliExpress belt kits. I'm not sure if these are still available, but I think so. And if they're not available from AliExpress, they're probably available elsewhere. So that's the 2 takeaways basically from this. The other stuff I've showed you, I'm pretty sure that's standard procedure basically. I'm definitely not the most knowledgeable person about these tape mechanisms, but I've fixed quite a few over the years and serviced quite a few over the years. So I'm confident that the things I did actually make sense. Special thanks, as always, to everybody who supports me on Patreon or on Ko-fi or on the YouTube channel memberships page or elsewhere. The links to that are in the video description and on my website. That's it for today. I'm Jan Peter. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!